Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist /secular /awesome community. This is episode number 156. The interview was recorded live on August 8th, 2018. My name is Zach Law, and I am an atheist. Thank you to Andy Sidler for coming on last week and giving me an excuse to talk about beer. I'm telling you, ReasonCon 2019 will be the greatest beer exchange in atheist history. So do be prepared, and please listen to last week's episode. So this week, I have on a man whose cat lets him YouTube. Kevin Logan decided to take the financially not good idea progressive side of things on YouTube, and he's made some friends and a few enemies. Want to know what Kekistan is all about? Want to know why a Brit picked the most hated team in America to be his NFL franchise? Why does his cat talk in that accent? Find out on this week's show after intermission music. I like intermission music. Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast, Kevin Logan, and happy International Cat Day.
Well, in my house, every day is Cat Day, so a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it seems like when you go on like social media, they have like happy whatever day, and every week there's another beer day, and there's definitely a cat day or a pet day, and the cats pretty much rule it.
Yeah, who's deciding this bullshit? Like, who decides it's National French Fry Week or something? Like, who's deciding that bullshit? And where can I slap them?
Well, we're not in charge for sure. So tonight I have a lovely Dragon's Milk cherry chocolate. This is a bourbon barrel stout out of Michigan. I felt bad because the Cellar Skeptics guys wanted to have me on their show, but it was past my bedtime. And of course, here I am talking to a guy where it's like 1 a.m. in where you're located. Anyway, that's what I got tonight.
But I am basically a vampire, so I mean, don't follow my sleep patterns, Jesus. You will end up as depressed as me.
Well, let's get a few out-of-context quotes, and then we'll get started on the show. So these are out-of-context quotes from your various programs. Only he who has the penis shall speak.
Oh God, that's a blast from the past. Yes, it's like the passing the conch shell. That was John is his name, and I've totally forgotten the channel name. MGTOW. Oh, fucking the blonde twat who lives in California.
Is that the last Manosphere one you did?
Oh shit, who was that? I can't even remember now. Oh,
actually, you've done one since then. I think it was the one that I saw. That anyway.
It's MGTOW is freedom.
There's some people who have like 5 episodes of a show and I can listen to it all, and you have like 947 videos on your channel, which I don't know if that's all you. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, I have in that particular series alone, I have 54 now, I think it is, episodes. But yeah, that one was a particularly funny one because the guy is his catchphrase is "I have the penis," which is fucking weird because, as I point out in the show, he doesn't have the penis; he has a penis.
Yeah,
like the conch shell in Lord of the Flies, where only he who has the penis may speak.
Some else, there's just one that got passed around. It's like, hey, dude, can I borrow that for a few minutes? Yeah.
Wow, not to brag, but mine's been passed around a little bit. Oh,
there we go. See, we're getting started. Yeah. Okay, we got another one. The cultural Marxists trying to take away our tits.
Oh, that was from the recent one. It was in Happy Hour, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've. Oh God, these people are going on about the feminists are trying to take away the Formula One grid girls. I don't know if you're aware of those. Basically, scantily clad women who stand around before the race happens. But it has to be pointed out, of course, it wasn't feminists that did that. It was the fact that they've tried to break into the Saudi Arabian market, the Formula One people, and Saudi Arabia obviously has a rather more conservative approach to the way women are presented. So they've kowtowed to the almighty dollar of the almighty Saudi petrodollar, rather than feminists doing anything of the sort. Because in the world of these right-wing idiots, you can just say, oh, George Soros did it, and that's enough. That explains everything.
I love the sexy Soros you throw in some of your videos at the end. I feel like that should be used by everybody. How come there's only one? There's like one boogeyman on the left, and then on the right, they actually exist, and they are like in charge of our country right now.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think they need simple explanations. Well, that's not entirely true either, because, I mean, some of the conspiracies they cook up are quite remarkable, really. Like, it takes a level of mental gymnastics to believe a lot of it. But I don't know. They're just, it's stuff they're not in control of, or seemingly not in control of, that they need to explain away via some mechanism that isn't just, oh, that's real life. It's complicated and messy. Oh, no, George Soros did it. Oh, that's much easier.
Yeah, it's not a thing. I think someone mentioned nuance, but we'll get there. But my last quote is, how does one hold a child sex party in a non-existent basement?
The old Pizzagate, talking of right-wing conspiracy. For anyone who doesn't know, Pizzagate is a conspiracy that a Washington, D.C. pizzeria by the name of Comet Ping Pong Pizza, which is a fucking weird name. Anyway, they were accused. John Podesta, who was Hillary Clinton, or one of Hillary Clinton's campaign managers, was using some cryptic phrases in emails that people insinuated was him involving Comet Ping Pong Pizza having child pedophile rings going on in the basement of said pizzeria. And that would hold together perfectly well if for not the fact that that particular establishment doesn't have a fucking basement. So, it's a sort of metaphysical question, isn't it, really? How would one hold a child sex ring party in a non-existent basement?
Well, I have two Twitter accounts. One I consider my civilian one, where I mostly talk about sports, and then the Zachrilege one. And the Zachrilege one, I had a guy who went back and forth with me for like 2 days about how Pizzagate was a real thing, and then totally evaporated when it was like, yeah, that was debunked. But most of this stuff is like pre-debunked. Like the big thing this week or in the last few weeks was that Q or Quanon or whatever the hell it was called, like the secret source. And like somebody sent me a video, and he didn't even say this is true. He's like, well, some of it's true. Okay.
QAnon's even crazier. It's like
Pizzagate. Yeah, you got this. You know it.
Yeah, Pizzagate, but on steroids, basically. On a place called 4chan, which is like an internet message board.
Right.
Someone started posting under the name Q, who purported to be some sort of involvement with the US government in some way, basically some position of knowledge, and was claiming all kinds of crazy paedophile sex rings and stuff, really, really lurid, horrific descriptions, including, it seems, a couple of weeks ago, Tom Hanks, the famous actor, was outed by Q as being a pedophile. Now, there's literally no evidence to suggest that Tom Hanks is a pedophile, to the point where on YouTube, if you typed in Tom Hanks, the very first 2 pages of search results were all QAnon, Tom Hanks is a pedo searches, until Tom Hanks' lawyers got in contact with YouTube, and all of a sudden the algorithm changed rather quickly. Yeah, these people are crazy. I mean, that's the thing. I'm sure we're going to talk about Alex Jones as we're talking about conspiracy nonsense. I'm just go around accusing people of raping children when there's literally no evidence to suggest they do that. That's not protected by the First Amendment. It's just not.
I mean, it is a random thing that Q is what people call like the source for everything that's in the Bible, and then now people are like, I don't think that thing really exists. That was debunked. It took a lot longer to debunk that than this new source, but it is just kind of throwing stuff out at this point, especially the president himself. He's definitely, hey, look over there, shiny object. Problem is he's more easily distracted. But dang, we even spent just 10 minutes talking about 3 quotes from you on your own show. We haven't really talked about your channel. Like, when did you think, hey, let me get involved in YouTube? That can't be that controversial or that troubling. And while you answer, I may go grab another beer, so I'll be in very close.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was going to be controversial and messy because that's the whole reason I got involved. I was originally just a long-time viewer of many of the sort of atheist, skeptic channels, and I was more than happy to watch them polling, as the old phrase was, religious fundamentalists and just woo-woo peddlers and all that sort of stuff, until they decided to become crazy bastards themselves, to the point where they're now friends with people like Jordan Peterson, who is himself a Christian fundamentalist, woo-woo peddler of the most lobstery kind, you know. So I got involved to counteract some of that nonsense, knowing full well that I would get very little by way of thanks, and a lot of hatred would come my way, but I felt it was a fight worth taking on nonetheless.
So where did you come up with the awful stage name for your channel?
I have to blame two people, Mama Bear and Papa Bear, who about 32 years ago came up with the name. And yeah, there we go. But I like Logan as a surname, but Kevin's an awful first name. Jesus fucking Christ.
Now, do you think there's is there like a generator? You know, they do like that generate your special name, like the first pet in the street you grew up on, to come up with like a Sargon kind of like name for yourself? Not like really, but just, you know.
Well, to be fair,
fun, as they say.
Sargon, that's not like a random generator. Sargon of Akkad was a real historical figure. That's not a randomly generated name.
I mean, I know, but it sounds like it.
Yeah, it sounds like it, basically.
And I don't even know how to explain, like, when people were talking about, because it took a while when you first hear about it, you're like, wait a second. This guy named himself after, like, a historical figure, and probably shouldn't have, because the guy's going to come out of his grave and, like, strangle him for, like, no, I don't want to be associated with this dude.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if we're setting aside the morality of it, because it was a very long time ago, if we just look at how great, in terms of size and stature and historical importance, Sargon of Akkad, the actual original ruler of one of the very first civilizations in human history, was a truly remarkable character, someone worthy of note, and someone who people should learn about. And unfortunately, when you type in Sargon of Akkad onto any search engine, you don't get that great historical figure. You get a fucking idiot from Swindon talking shit. That's just not fair. To think that several thousand years later, all of that work he did is for naught, because the people are only going to remember this fucking right-wing idiot spouting nonsense.
But I thought, isn't he a classical liberal or something, or is that Dave Rubin? I'm getting them confused.
Oh, well, he certainly claims to be a classical liberal, but I keep telling him that means conservative. Like, what do you mean, fool? But yeah.
Well, when did you decide to get started on the Descent of Manosphere series? As you mentioned before, you're in the 50s on that, and they're not short shows. There's a lot of work to be put into each one of those. What was the idea behind it? And now that you've done 50-some, do you think you're ever going to run out?
Well, I'll firstly answer your last question. No, I will never run out. Unfortunately, these people, these fucking right-wing twats, are an unfortunately rather renewable resource. When did I get started? Mid to late 2015, the first one, which was a guy called Roosh V, who is literally pro-rape. Yes, and that gives you some idea as to the caliber of individual I'm dealing with. Where did I get the idea? Well, I've been doing videos about those kinds of people anyway, and I just thought I wanted to put together a more structured series where I actually profile like an individual per episode rather than just reacting to a thing someone said. And you'll notice, although a lot of work goes into the episodes, the more the series goes on, the more work it is. Like the first episode is very, very basic, and then the second episode's more so and more so, and it's just sort of snowballed. There's been a lot of mission creep on that series, to the point where I've had to really sort of try and reel it back in the last sort of 10 episodes, because if it carried on just getting exponentially larger, it would take like a year to produce an episode, which is ridiculous. I try and get on about one a month usually, and they are a lot of work, but they're the thing I'm most proud of in terms of YouTube, and they're the thing that gets the best reaction from people, so I think it's worth putting that effort in.
Do you have like a favorite one you've done? And just one question at a time for once from me. Okay.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to narrow down precisely what you mean by favorite. Favorite in what sense? Because
that's a good question. Like the one you're like, oh, I need to talk about this person, because you're probably maybe getting depressed actually talking about them and looking at their subscriber number. Of course, every time I look at someone on YouTube, I'm like, are you kidding me? But it's the way it is.
Well, in terms of the ones I wanted to most talk about, was the very first two. Was Rushvi and then Davis Orini, because they were two characters at the time who both have sort of dropped off the radar quite a lot, but were significant-ish within that community at the time, and really needed to be talked about, because, like I say, they're both basically pro-rape, they're both very racist, they're both fucking stupid beyond belief, and they're both very sort of absurd characters in their own way, and so they were good fodder. So those were the two I wanted to. But there are various others throughout the series who I felt I really had to talk about. Some of the early ones, like Thunderfoot, who's been around forever, and for me epitomised that transition that I was talking about between the kind of atheist skeptics going to the right. Obviously Sargon I did recently. That had to be done. Some of the specials I've quite enjoyed as well. The one I did about Tommy Robinson being arrested was quite fun. There are various different ones as well.
Oh yeah, Tommy Robinson becoming like a darling in America for some reason. He was in Tucker Carlson like last week.
He was. I actually did a video response to that, and he lied his arse off all the way through. I mean, literally, virtually every fucking word he said was false. Even to the point where he wasn't held in solitary confinement. He was held in a reserved block, I think they called it, for 2 days while they did when he first got to the prison, whilst they evaluated the situation and did safety checks and stuff, and then he was released into the population. So he just blatantly lied, even though the records are right there telling the world that he's totally full of shit. But thankfully, he's probably going to go back to jail, I think. So,
Well, it's a good thing we're in the post-truth era, I guess. Now, you've had a few women on the Descent of Manosphere. How did they end up making the cut?
Well, because it might seem odd because it's called the Manosphere. Although that's sort of an antiquated phrase, really. It was much more relevant in 2015. But it's just what the series is called now. But yeah, so it's called the Manosphere, but there are women within the Manosphere, basically, who are misogynists. The fact that they happen to be women is sort of irrelevant, really. So there's been a few. And I think they're all just as worthy of being there as the men that are there. They're just as awful. And in many ways, isn't that what equality is all about? The equality for women to be just as shitty as men in so many ways. And those women exemplify that.
I mean, it's definitely true. Now, you've actually engaged, you've been on other people's shows. I like to call him Carl. Of course, we mentioned him by his show name, Sargon, before. You actually interact with him some. You've been on some of his shows. Do you feel like that's kind of part of being a progressive person on YouTube? Like, okay, I got to talk to these people. I got to do the occasional response video, but then I'm going to actually talk to them and hear them explain their positions. Not always well, but at least they do it.
No, well, that's the thing. Most progressives don't even want to interact with them, and I totally get that. Like, I would never criticise an individual for doing it the way they want to do it, because it's the way they want to do it. In some cases, it's for their own mental health. Good. They don't want all the shit that comes with it. As I said, I knew I was going to get a lot of flack even just doing my channel and saying the things I want to say. And ultimately, going on those shows doesn't really do me a lot of good. In terms of like the fact that I get a lot of hate from that people's fans. I do get some respect. Like, some people will come over and say, well, I'm glad you interacted, even if I disagree with you. That's nice. But by and large, I get a lot of sort of hate and stuff. But I feel it's important for me as a person who I think offers a different point of view to go into those spaces where they'll accuse others of being in an echo chamber, but these people are so in an echo chamber, it's untrue. They constantly have that kind of self-reinforcing message, and so it's important that the occasional different message is heard by these people, because you've got to bear in mind, when I'm talking to Carl, I'm not really talking to Carl, I'm talking to his fans. I'm trying to put a different message to them, and that might be the only alternative message they hear that week, because they're going to listen to him and like Dan Killer and whoever, and they're all going to have the same opinion. So my opposition voice might be the only one they hear that week. So it's important that my voice is heard, hopefully. And I hope I do a good job of putting a vaguely progressive message across.
Now, do you feel like you've made mistakes in engaging with the other side, like with people like Carl?
Oh yeah, I'm sure I have. Yeah, I'm sure I've ceded ground in certain places where I needn't have, just because of wanting to feel either comfortable or like I find it much more difficult to be incredibly confrontational when I'm actually talking to the person to person, and so I probably haven't always pushed the point in the best way possible. And sometimes when I do response videos, I can be quite. I'm doing it for effect and I'm doing it for entertainment, but sometimes it's not always the best in terms of, if I want to be talking to the other person's fans, saying this person is inherently stupid and if you like him, you're stupid, isn't necessarily the best way of going about that, because that's going to get them on the defensive. But I'm sort of doing that for comedic effect, if nothing else. But obviously that's not necessarily the best, most productive way of going about it. So I'm sure I'm guilty of that on some level as well.
Yeah, there has to be like a level of hate watching when you do like Descent of Manosphere, just because the people you're talking about have their fans and they want to defend. But you did something on YouTube that I don't know if I've ever seen on YouTube. You actually made an apology to Shoe-on-Head and Arnold Skeptic. What was it like to like actually do an apology, and what was the reaction to that?
I didn't realise quite how belligerent the people of the internet are, because they all seemed enormously surprised that a person would apologise. And for me, that's just a normal, basic courtesy. If you fucked up, you should apologise, right? So yeah, I did it a bit. I said something a bit stupid, and I apologised, and it was accepted, albeit that it's sort of been thrown back in my face a couple of occasions by them, which is not great, but whatever. Yeah, it just seemed like the natural, correct thing to do, to apologise. And the reaction by and large was pretty positive, actually. I think people were generally like, oh, good for you, cool. That was nice, that was heartening.
Well, it's got to be tough, because on YouTube, I feel like sometimes in podcasting, you can't convey emotion, but like in YouTube, when you're doing your videos, they're seeing you. Not always. Sometimes they see your avatar and they see your cat and they go, "Aw, cat." But then sometimes the humanity side is lost, like, because you're always trying to win. You're always trying to make the other side look bad. So it does say something where you're just like, "Hey, I messed up," and let the chips fall where they may. And you find that like empathy still exists somewhere in the world. There's a little bit of it.
Well, exactly, yeah. And I think it's easy to forget that when you're dealing with these people, and indeed when they're dealing with you, that the other person you're dealing with is like a complex, intricate human being. They may be stupid. They may have simple reactionary views, but they're still like complex creatures. They're still multifaceted and capable of various emotions and various different levels of like ethical uprightness or otherwise. And so occasionally when that guard gets let down, that is a nice reminder that actually, we are actually dealing with people. It's not just like, this Sargon of Akkad, this faceless guy who's just sort of talking. It's an actual person there, or Kevin. Well, that's the thing. One of the reasons I wanted to do my channel as me was because I thought he was sort of more honest rather than trying to hide. And secondly, it reminds you, it's an actual person. It's not like an internet character. Although there is an element of character and performance to some of it, but it is an actual person there,
You're in there somewhere. Now you have it's not really a new channel, but it's a new show that's on your channel. Let Them Eat Kek.
Yes.
So what made you go, hey, I'm not doing enough content. Let me do another show. What's kind of the show elevator pitch? And I hear you have another episode coming out. If you're listening to the audio, it's probably already out, the August version, but carry on.
No, it's not the August version. It's a special. It's a.
Yeah, that's right. It's special day.
Alex Jones Infowars banning SmackDown fucking special, which will be fun. And it's me and a guy called Mike Stutchbury, who's technically Australian, but he lives in Britain. So we've accepted him as one of our own. And he's a historian who's probably most well known for bitch slapping the fuck out of Paul Joseph Watson on the internet, which was fun. And not physically attacking, I mean like in an intellectual sense. Yeah, and it was actually him who suggested the show to me, because we've been talking on the internet, and he'd been on a happy hour show with me and Christy Winters, which is another show I do.
All forward.
And he said, when are we going to get together and do like a show about, laughing at these far right pricks? And I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And eventually, we, as always is the case with me, it takes several months for me to actually kick into gear. But eventually, I said, yeah, let's do that. And so we're going to do it as a monthly show. Let the meat kick, obviously upon. And the inside joke being that kek is the Vietnamese word for shit. So that's a nice added bonus that I wasn't aware of when we first came up with I didn't actually come up with the show name. It was a fan, subscriber of mine. We get together and me and Mike rip the piss out of some far right idiots. And our next show is tomorrow. But I don't know, is this going out now? This is going out live, isn't it? So,
well, it's live on YouTube. The podcast version will probably be out in a couple days, so that audio part will be later. But the good news of that is your next episode will be out, and it'll be included in the show notes, so people can check it out.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube,
the last couple of months, just so you can get a feel for it.
If you're watching on YouTube, it's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. on the east coast of Americana land. And if you're watching in the future, hello to the future. Treat our alien overlords with respect and dignity, please.
Try to, anyway.
Yeah.
But what is it about this that needs like attention? Like the Kyrgyzstan thing, the flag. Seems like it's a joke. It's like a lark, but it's gotten so much attention. It's become part of, I feel like, our current president in America, at least. I don't know how the politics work over there. They're listening, at least. And they seem sympathetic.
Yeah, the Kyrgyzstan thing, and indeed this kind of performative Nazism or whatever, this kind of ironic Nazism, where they pretend quote unquote to be really racist. It seems to me if that kind of performative racism is no different and indiscernible from actual racism, then I'm sorry, you don't get to claim that it's a joke anymore. If you're allowing actual Nazis to hide inside your movement of ironic Nazis, then you're just aiding and abetting Nazis. And that's what these people are doing, whether they want to admit it or not, whether they're ever going to be honest with themselves and with the world about that or not. That's what they're doing. They've aided and abetted the rise of these far-right bastards. So it isn't just a joke, it isn't just a lark, although it can appear that way to like the layman on the outside. But trust me, having studied these people, that it's not at all. And you can see that now with the likes of Sargon joining UKIP, that this has got a very, very serious right-wing political edge to it.
Okay, we'll have to explain quickly what political party is UKIP, and how come all of the well-known, the Dankulas, the Paul Joseph Watsons, the Sargons decided to jump on board on this political party in England?
Well, UKIP, it's an acronym. It stands for the United Kingdom Independence Party. It's a really laughable far-right group who unfortunately pushed the country toward Brexit. They're given far too much credit in terms of the influence they had on all of that, but they were undoubtedly an influence on it. They're most well known for having previously been led by Nigel Farage, who's now a big friend of the Orange Führer. The UKIP, like I say, they're a far-right group, and they've decided to join on there because they think they're fighting some big culture war, which they're not. And they've decided to take it into the political sphere. But the thing is, they've joined a virtually dead party, and whilst they've given it a slight resuscitation by the increased membership fees that they brought to it, their time is gone. That party is basically dead. So, I mean, they're wasting their time. And as is so often the case with these slacktivists, and I'm not even entirely sure that Sargon and his ilk can even be classed as slacktivists. That's how fucking poor they are at this. In a couple of months, this will all be forgotten, as all their other efforts at activism have been.
Man, I wish it was all like that with the extremist. So you also do, I don't know if this is a weekly show. It does seem like it comes out pretty often. You do a happy hour with Christy Winters, so you are connected with, I feel like she and like Steve Shives are the people who have the most like takedown videos. If you like look them up, you're like, I can't find their page. All I can find are takedown videos. So when did you two decide, hey, we're going to do a regular show and you're never going to run anything to talk about? That's for sure, right?
Hey, exactly. Yeah. We talk about everything and anything, and there's always something going on. We really probably could do a show every day. So
I forget, you had not told the chat room to go fuck themselves. Sorry.
Oh yeah, go fuck yourselves. Especially you. You know who I'm talking to. You. Anyway, Christy Winters, a fantastic political scientist, technically American, although she now lives in Germany, so she's basically foreign. She decided, she bullied me basically into doing a show, and I'm doing it against my will. Please help. No, I'm only joking. Now she suggested we do a regular show because we've done loads of hangouts and stuff, so it's best to just come up with like a vaguely structured show, and it is very vaguely structured. It's essentially, the idea is we just have like a kind of vaguely free-form chat as if we're sat in a pub, hence happy hour, and we talk about sort of stuff that's interesting to us. Internet, bits and bobs, news, culture, whatever. Yeah.
Sounds good. Now, you're a guy in England. Of course, England, Britain, some of us don't know the difference. Why are you a fan of the National Football League?
Because I enjoy people kneeling during national anthems. No, I'm only joking. It's insomnia. Insomnia, pure and simple. I've always been a terrible sleeper, and up until probably a couple of seasons ago, they used to have all of the four major leagues of North American sports on live TV at like 2-3 in the morning here in Britain. They still have the NFL games on during the season, but the others, unfortunately, have largely gone by the wayside. So I have to now get those on the internet. But there we go. And so the timings just work that, when I can't sleep, I get up and I watch baseball or football or whatever. And, I decided to just choose like a city. So I went with Boston, mainly because Paul Pierce of the Boston Celtics was a very good player on a shit team. And I felt like he needed the support. So I chose the Celtics, and then all the other Boston teams just came along naturally to add interest to it, and got sucked in. So, yeah, that's where that comes from.
So you had to be the fan of the team whose owner accidentally gave Vladimir Putin a Super Bowl ring, and on purpose, Donald Trump.
Yes, yeah, that's unfortunate. Although I will point out, they gave Donald Trump a ring, I believe, long before he was outed as an absolutely disgusting racist. Although it was known that he was a pervert and a sexual pest of all sorts. So that's not ideal. I'll be honest.
Of everything that,
Yeah, that's not pleasant. That's not a pleasant element of any of this, yeah.
Well, you have your own orange overlord. Is Rory Cat still gloating over the fact that France won the World Cup?
He cares not for such human trivialities. He's got cat-related business on his mind. He loved it. He loved it.
Now, how did your cat get to be kind of the co-host of your show, or at least with some good dance moves?
Well, he's the brains of the operation. Basically, the cat wouldn't need me if he had thumbs. If he had thumbs,
That's true.
He'd be doing the show, and I'd be dead. I would be of no use to him. He would discard me like yesterday's chip paper. He's an adorable cat, and what I try and do with the Descent of Manosphere shows is I try and break up the hideous darkness of it, because, I mean, it really is. Like, there's a recurring segment in every episode called The Inevitable Bit About Rape, because these people are obsessed with rape and essentially, like I say, being sort of pro-rape. Not pro-rape advocacy or whatever, not pro-rape victims, literally pro-rape. So I take on their hideous nonsense about rape. And so it's very, very dark, dense, unpleasant, shitty content to have to deal with. And so I try and break it up with some funny bits as well. And one of those is that I try and get Rory Katz involved, just to get him on the screen, basically, because he's cute, and he breaks up the horribleness of the actual content, a bit of light relief, as it were. And so I put him in there. And the reason that he's French, other than the fact that obviously he was born in France, is that he's got quite a very snooty attitude sometimes. And so he sort of struck me as that kind of stereotypically pompous French kind of attitude, which is probably a bit xenophobic, frankly, on my part, but fuck it, I don't care. It's slightly funny because I can't do a French accent. So it just ends up sounding, well, a bit silly. But that's hopefully adds a comedic element of slapstick nonsense to the affair.
Now, do you have, like, dream guests you want to interview, either on the progressive side or on the shitlord side?
Oh, yeah. Paul Joseph Watson. I love it.
Will he return your calls?
No, I've tried to get through to him via Sargon of Akkad. Because Sargon of Akkad is a regular fool on my Facebook page. If you go to it, virtually any of my Facebook posts, he's there talking nonsense. Anyways, and I'll try to get into it. But basically, Paul Joseph Watson doesn't do interviews with people who are hostile because he knows they're going to bring up the fact that he's full of shit, that he believes insane conspiracy theories, and is just a generally unpleasant piece of garbage. Whereas he'll do lots of interviews with people who he's friendly with, who aren't going to actually challenge him on anything, because he's not interested in having a debate or a discussion. He's interested in proselytizing and making money.
Yeah, that can be a bit of the name of the game. Now, if you were offered, this is a constant show topic on the happy hour, if you were offered, would you go to MythCon?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know, to be honest with you. Maybe I would. I think if they were going to pay, but the thing is, like, it makes more sense for them to pay for, like, Curiosity to fly from, New England to Wisconsin than to fly me 5,000 miles or whatever it is. It might even be more than that, I'm not sure. Because that's going to be really fucking expensive. So I don't see that they're going to do that. But if they want to pay for me to go all that way, yeah, I probably would. Because, I mean, that's an amazing, maybe once-in-a-lifetime holiday opportunity. Albeit that Milwaukee would be the weirdest fucking place to, like, go on a once-in-a-lifetime adventure to America. Let's go to Milwaukee. What? You're right in the middle between, New York and LA. So why not go to Cruise instead?
Wasn't it one of the plot threads in Love Actually where a British guy's like, I'm going to go to Wisconsin and all the women are going to love me? And of course they did, because that's the way that movie was. But,
and of course, Wisconsin, having briefly mentioned in the pre-chat before we come on air, I'm revealing I'm lifting the curtain here, showing you the method. I'll mention that American cheese is disgusting. So frankly, I wouldn't want to go to Wisconsin. Fuck Wisconsin. And that's a little nod to the fact that Christy Winters is from Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was wondering, I definitely would consider even doing a panel of, like, people who are going to MythCon, like Curiosity, like Karen Garst, Godless Mom, like Music Man Mike. Isn't he like a New Zealand guy?
He is, but he works sort of 6 months of the year. Well, actually, very, very rarely in New Zealand. He works sort of 4 months of the year on cruise ships. He's like a musician on a cruise ship. So he goes to, like, Singapore and plays it. And then he works, like, 6 months of the year in America. He works at a music camp for kids in somewhere. I think it's upstate New York. So, yeah, he's in America most, like half the year or whatever. So, yeah, they're flying him from wherever the fuck he is on the East Coast to Wisconsin, yeah. Which is fun. Like, for him, it's a sort of holiday within a holiday, really.
So when it comes to YouTube, I feel like one of the first rites of passage is having someone do like a response video about you, and then you are apparently supposed to do one back.
Yes.
What's a good ratio on that? Because you did like an 11-minute video on the shoe on head and armored skeptic, and I like to see the birth certificate on that. And then they like went back and talked about it for like 100 minutes. So should you really be like a 1-to-1, or sometimes you have to like go on and talk about every sentence a person says?
Yeah. Well, what I will say, to be fair to them, is I think the show is more like 25 minutes that they then talked about for 100 minutes. But that's still obviously a pretty significant, markup in terms of time. I suppose it depends, because they were doing a literal like, watching the video and pausing it and talking, which obviously is going to elongate the video significantly. Whereas if you splice it up and only respond to certain bits, you can cut it down enormously. But I don't know that there is a good ratio. Essentially, if you're asking me what you should do in terms of your style, only you can find that out by trial and error, basically, and trying different things and coming up with what's comfortable for you and what's good for you. Because each individual does their own thing in their own way.
Well, I like asking questions that will lead to a long response, so I have more time to drink. That's really my idea of perfect show.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I'm happy to just, talk. Although I found that I'm better now in terms of brevity. Like I can try and reduce down what I have to say rather than just fucking rambling, hopefully.
Well, what is it about sometimes YouTube videos do seem to go kind of long? Like, I feel like your videos are either like 2 minutes or they're like 2 hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, the happy hours, even though they're supposed to be an hour, as the title would suggest, often go over. And I do hangouts that sometimes go on. Like the first one I ever did with Sargon was like 4 hours, which is pretty significant. And then I do little silly videos that essentially sort of fill in, as it were, because I like to put out a video most days to regularly sort of update people, and so I can cover various different bases, because the Manosphere and the right or whatever have got so many different little camps that I like to sort of keep a lookout on all of them, and sort of post back to the troops, as it were, on what's going on, because obviously normal people aren't watching this shit, but I think someone should, because these people are rather dangerous. And so I do those little sort of 2-minute videos where I play a clip of a person and then laugh at them and call them a prick and say goodbye, and then play sex bomb over an image of a 90-year-old Hungarian economist. It's classic entertainment. It's like old vaudeville.
In Soros we trust.
Exactly. All hail Soros. Absolutely. The Lord God Emperor of all things, who definitely pays all leftists ever.
We wish. So what part of American politics makes you wish you could move here, and why are you happy that you're on your side of the pond?
No part of American politics makes me want to go there, other than the fact that you're a republic. That is literally it, other than the fact that you're a republic. But I mean, we're basically a republic in all but name. The Queen has virtually no power. So even in that respect, it's not really worth it. And what makes me glad that I'm here, the lack of religiosity in politics. That makes a huge difference. It's basically whenever you try and imagine a British version of an American political situation, remove the religiosity and things become so much better. You can actually have a discussion about the thing without going, but my God says if you don't do this, you're going to burn in hell, because everyone just laughs the prick out of the room. So no one's, even those who do genuinely believe that, don't say it, because they're going to be fucking laughed at.
So maybe that'll be it. That'll be like the last thing Trump does before he gets pulled out the door. Of course, that'll lead to Pence, is we'll have like an official religion, and then all of a sudden America's like, maybe we don't need this anymore.
I imagine Trump will do the prison warden did in Shawshank's Redemption, just lock himself in the room with the gun and just blow his fucking brains out. That's how I imagine he's going to go down.
I just don't see him as the kind of person who could do that. He's got but he doesn't it's like everybody thinks well, not everybody, but there's the conspiracy theory types think he has like this great plan, but he's clearly only thinking 5 minutes ahead. If he can think for a second, I can get out of this, and Pence is going to pardon me because that's what we do here, and then I can just keep doing what I'm doing and making tons of money, and no one's going to care, and then all of a sudden some of the state stuff's going to come back and get him. But that's the problem with our political system right now. We have no idea what's going to happen.
The real problem, I mean, other than the fact that you have a disengaged populace and a complicit media, but other than that, is the fact that you have a Republican Party who absolutely refuse to hold their elected representatives to account. They're not going to impeach Trump, even though they know, I think deep down, that they should. They're not going to, though, because party loyalty comes first. Fuck the country.
True that. Now, I forgot, because I always do, to ask before the show started. So it's totally up to you if you can do this. I try to ask my guests before we call it a night to tell a joke. So if you have one, feel free to share.
Yeah, I have. It's quite a short one. I used to have a career in archaeology, but it ended in ruins.
There you go. See, that was good.
Yeah, thank you. That's my silly pun joke. That's all I've got.
Now, how can people find you online, find your shows, chat with you and Carl on Facebook, perhaps?
Yeah, come along and watch me jousting with Carl, which does sometimes feel like I'm slapping a child because he's so stupid. But you can find me on YouTube, type in Kevin Logan. You can find me via exactly the same name on Facebook, or at KF Logan on Twitter. Come and say hello. I'm generally nice, but if you start spouting shit, I will slap you the fuck down. That's the only warning. As long as you're pleasant, that I will get on just fine.
Just don't be an arse, people. So thank you, Kevin, for being on tonight, and that was, I think, my first attempt at British slang, so I did pretty well.
Yes, and well, thank you for having me on.
It's been a lovely time. I'm glad you're able to use your vampire skills for good tonight.
Yeah, I've also been watching baseball as we've been talking, so there's that. I'm multitask. I virtually never do a hangout where I'm not watching some sport as well. In fact, if you go back to my most recent hangout with Sargon of Akkad, you can literally see me looking off into the distance because I was watching Sweden play at the World Cup. I like to multitask because life's too short.
Even sports that are like soccer's kind of non-stop action, but it can be a little tedious at times. I think the whole sports multitasking thing is, I'm in favor. I'll give you a thumbs up on that one.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for being on, and I will try to get your entire response before I hit the stop button, because I sometimes forget to do that.
Oh, sorry, am I supposed to respond? Yeah, okay.
Up to you.
Fuck the chat.
Intermission music. Live read. I couldn't stay up late enough to be a guest on, at least this week's recording of the Cellar Door Skeptics. So I wanted to tell all of you, you should probably listen to those guys. They are beer guys from Michigan who do that news that kind of makes us depressed format that's so popular with the youngsters. Please check them out where all fine podcasts are found. And I was a guest on Podunk Polymath last week. I was at least his 78th best guest. And maybe I shouldn't be so self-deprecating, at least 76th. I mean, come on, let's get down to it. Sometimes in the podcasting gig, real life gets in the way, and you have to face, I guess, just what's happening in the world. So I found out that a former guest on my show, number 95, Matt Kovacs, who was working on a documentary about how Jesus was real, I don't know if it ever did come out, Turned out he's a bit of a creep. He was hitting on a fellow friend in the community, and that's just, let's just say, not cool and unfriended. And there are some people you have on your show, and later maybe you regret, but at the moment you just do it. And that brings up an idea or a concept or something that I've been thinking about a lot the last few days. I've had on both hosts of the Freethought Prophet on my show. I've had Seamus on. I've had John Hamill on. Great guests. Had me on their show. Recently, they had guests on their podcasts that I disagreed with, so I reached out to Seamus because he owns the Freethought Prophet kind of Twitter stream. And we went back and forth, and I thought, you know what? I bet I can let him see the light and see my side of things. And we exchanged a few messages, and no, that wasn't the case. And that doesn't mean he was right and I was right. But I just don't think at this time in the world, and maybe ever, when there are so many potential interesting guests, that you gotta have Lawrence Krauss and Michael Shermer on your show. I'm sorry. These guys, if you get invited to go to conferences, if you get to publish books, if you get to be a name in this community, you have a responsibility. And if you are contributing to the fact that many women are not feeling comfortable to go to conferences, and you're being accused of being a quote-unquote bad boy, I don't know if you should be on podcasts. And I definitely don't think you should be on podcasts and not talk about it and not bring it up unless somebody else makes an issue of it. Now, this is my personal opinion, but this is my own fucking personal podcast, so I can say what I want. I can say I still like these guys. I still think they do a good show. I think they might not do so well on this issue. And if I'm not going to talk up here, I don't know where I am. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because I've already talked way too long for my usual post-show talk. So if after all this you want to support this show, be like Bobby, Hugh Teode, Larry, Daryl, and the other Daryl, and go to patreon.com/Zachrilege. Follow me on Twitter, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, send all love, hate mail, zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thank you one more time to Kevin Logan for being on tonight, and for Rory Katz for letting him be on. Make your own choices, follow your own leaders, and lead your own followers, but fucking think about it. Thank you for listening. It means a lot that everybody's out there checking this out. Great show.